Moms for Liberty really worked miracles.
We have a crisis in America in public education. This is the future of our kids and our country.
You are joyful warriors.
And we are just getting started.
Oh. Welcome to the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. This show, I bring you from the front lines, moms and dads that have been forced into this cultural war to fight for their children, to fight for the future of America, and to improve education in America. You might notice today that we are not in the home studio in the Moms for Liberty office, but we are here in Palm Beach, Florida. I'd say on location. I was at a special event today, and you're going to meet who I was at the event with in just a second. But we want to take a moment to thank Real America's Voice for setting up the studio for us. And they are here running the cameras and recording. And they've been great partners. They came out to our national summit last week. If you were there with us, they live streamed all of the great speakers. I hope you will catch those speakers on our YouTube channel right now. Moms 4 Liberty on YouTube. We're uploading more and more every day. And our guest today was at Summit. She spoke, she led a panel, and today she held an event for her organization that she has founded and is CEO of, which is Education Freedom Foundation. Welcome to the Fire of Liberty, Erika Donalds.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to be here. And especially after your big event today, it was such an honor to be in the room with all of those people supporting your latest initiatives. But when you and I chatted earlier, we were talking about the many, many years that we've been on this journey together. And so I think it would be fun for the moms and dads at home listening right now to hear a little bit of the backstory of Erika Donalds' mom. I don't want to say angry mom, but mom, frustrated
Mom for sure.
Frustrated mom. How does one go from frustrated mom to potentially very soon the First Lady of Florida?
It's quite a journey between that and now. As you know, I have 3 boys who are now 22, 18, and 14. But at the time, they were in elementary school and one not even going into school yet. And it really started with the Common Core movement. I think a lot of people don't know that I was involved in that, but that was my first activism. I found out that the math had changed. And like a lot of parents whose kids were in school at that time, my oldest was in 3rd grade. And my son was so frustrated by not being able to do math the way that we had taught him, the way that we were able to help him. So I met with the teacher. The teacher was frustrated. She didn't really know the material that well. Remember, they had to retrain everyone. Mm-hmm. She was crying by the end of the meeting. I met with the principal. The principal said, I don't have any say in this. It's the district. I met with the district. The district said, we don't have any say in it. And they directed me to my state representative. And I met with my state representatives in my first time meeting with an elected official. And she told me that it was coming from the federal government. And I was blown away. Like, why? Why can't I, a mom, have any influence on what's being taught in my children's classrooms? And I found other moms in the state who felt the same way. And we formed an organization and started battling it.
So back up for a second. So you formed an organization, but you formed many organizations. They say, I formed an organization, and I think, oh, Erika has formed many. So which organization was this?
This one actually found me, and I was part of the founding team for Florida Parents Against Common Core.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know you were. That's not the Parents Rock.
No,
that was that's
a different activism. Actually.
The Florida Against Common Core. So they came into my county in Brevard and passed out these buttons, which I wore with a stop sign that said "Stop Common Core," and I put it on my bag, and it might even still be on my bulletin board, like my memory board at home. So that was your organization?
That was us. We created those signs and the logo and created T-shirts, and some people were coming into town. There were anything where education was being discussed, we were there to inform people about Common Core and the fact that we shouldn't allow the federal government or anyone at the federal level to tell us what we should teach in our schools. I just recognized that I wanted to say, and it wasn't even necessarily that the curriculum was bad. I didn't know enough to know whether it was or not. I just knew, well, I didn't like the math, but nevertheless, that I wanted to be able to go somewhere and tell someone who I vote for what I think, right? That was the first thing. But not too long after that, my son's after-school program was yanked out by the district. It was a private organization that was running an after-school program that we loved, families loved. It was a source of community in our district. And we played on sports teams together. They had leagues, and the district decided that they were making too much money and that they wanted to take it over. And on the last day of school, they let us know that program's not going to be available anymore. We, the district, are going to take it over, and you are going to pay us more money with less flexibility and no. So 100 of us parents went to a school board meeting. I organized them. This was, yes, the first school board meeting. And we, 100, one after the other, said, please don't make this change. We love the program. We don't want you to change it.
So this sounds like the beginnings of Moms for Liberty. What year was this?
This was in 2013.
Okay.
And we thought, all 100 of us said, don't change it. None of the people on the board at the time had children in school, if they had children at all. And they really treated us with total contempt. You're here now and you're angry, but you're going to get over it and we're going to still be here, was basically their message.
Which is what I would say all of our moms, all of America saw in 2020. So you learned that in 2013. And it led to several other organizations. And I don't know that we have to go into every single one because there's so many. Like, I know your story well enough to know you found a problem here and you're like, oh, we're going to start this organization and we're going to go solve that problem. And meanwhile, I'm over on the East Coast of Florida, kind of following the same track. And I'm not even going to get into where I started in the advocacy, but it was the same type of thing. I saw something in my son's school, frustrated, met with a state legislator for the first time, and it was able to impact change. And it's just a remarkable journey when you see a mom that can make such a difference. And so it led you to running for school board at some point, right?
Actually, that meeting was a critical meeting. At the end of that meeting, I went up to the dais to speak to my school board member that represented my district at the time. And she had been on the board a long time, and I was standing next to another activist. And I said to her, you sound like you are representing the district to me when you are supposed to be representing me to the district. And she said to me, and I quote, no, I represent the district.
Oh, then what do all these, we had 9,000 employees. I'm sure your district was bigger. So what do these 10, 11, 12,000 employees? Oh my gosh.
Yes, that was very frustrating to me. I looked incredulously at the person next to me like, did you hear her say that? Well, she's the same person that I ran against, and she ended up dropping out of the race, and I won that seat.
Most excellent. Yeah. So you've got these 12,000 employees that represent the district. You got a superintendent that represents the district, and you have 5 school board members or whatever number you have.
5, yep.
5 school board members also representing the district. So who's representing parents?
Yeah, no one.
No one.
And that's exactly what I found out.
Also, you've got the teachers union president representing the teachers union. So where is the seat at the table for parents?
Yeah, and unfortunately, even as I got elected and one other parent in my district, we were still on the low end of the 3-2 votes and felt like we still didn't really have the voice that we needed. And they were so unresponsive to our concerns, even though we were the only ones really representing parents on that board. So as you know, we started going to the legislature and trying to enact change there. They actually seemed to listen and tried to do things in Tallahassee, but we found that we would get great laws passed in Tallahassee, but there was not a solid accountability mechanism to make sure that the districts then put policies in place that didn't circumvent the intent of the law in Tallahassee. So you have to stay on top of the districts and make sure that they're actually doing what we've worked so hard to get passed.
The work is never done.
It is never done.
And so I would say our moms in blue states are kind of in that mindset that you were in, like, I can't get anything done in my school district. So they're trying now to work at the state level. But what I hear from you is even if when you get policies passed at the state level, it has to be all levels of government, which is the Moms for Liberty mission, that we are going to defend parental rights at all levels of government, because it takes all the way down to the home. I'll say that's like the first level of government, through your local school district, through your state, through the federal government, which we're seeing now. And so, but your biggest passion, I would say overall in education, is what?
School choice.
Of course.
Education freedom. Yes.
Education freedom.
Well, because I believe it solves all ills in education. A free market is necessary to have the ultimate accountability to parents, the people who care about their children the most, love them the most, the ones who are paying attention to their individual child, what their child needs. And when you make parents into consumers, just like any of us, if I pay for that service or that good and I don't get what I expect to get or what I'm entitled to, then I'm going to come and say, hey, excuse me, I paid for this. This is what you said I was getting, and I didn't get it. But as parents have taken on a very passive role in our public education system, they don't feel entitled to a high quality level of service because they feel like someone's doing them a favor by educating their children. I want to flip that and make parents into the consumers, put the ownership on parents on making the education decisions for their children, directing the funding for their children, so that that school or that education program is accountable to the parent, and the parent feels like they have some power to hold those schools accountable for better
And
results.
how do you go about doing that? I mean, you've done it in a variety of ways. It sounds great. Sounds like a great. Is it happening in America? What needs to be done to get to that point? Like that, to me, that's like a utopia of education. How do we get there?
I think we thought where we are now was a utopia, where we have universal school choice in Florida, for example, where any parent in all of Florida, doesn't matter how much money you make, where you live, or whether there's school programs available, I can get a scholarship. I have $9,000 to spend that scholarship however I see fit, of a combination of education programs for my kids. If my child loves to learn online math and can just whiz right through it without an instructor, I can just let them do that while getting them an individualized tutor for reading if that's where they struggle, and purchasing a course from the Miami-Dade Public School District and paying for homeschool extension like I do with my kids at the private school where they can play sports and go do clubs. I can actually customize the education experience. Now, we don't have enough options available yet because the market has to develop there, but it is getting close to what I would envision as more of a free market. Now, the continuum goes all the way to states that have no public school choice, where you literally have no option outside of your zoned public school. And so you have to start where you are. And if that's where you are, you need at least public school choice, especially if you're in a district where there's low performance or lack of safety
Let's
or
pause there for a
whatever.
second. So you're talking to a mom right now who's in a low performing district in a blue county, city, blue state, no school choice, no options. This is your zip code. This is where you go to school. No extra income. Single mom, works a job. What, does she have any options out there at this point? What does she do?
She doesn't have a lot of options, and that's what really is unfortunate for families like that. And those are the ones that we're fighting for just as much as improving the states where we already have some form of choice. And so what I would tell those parents is that there's always something more that you can do. I used to joke when I was a parent like that, I only had my own public school. There were no charter schools in my community, and I couldn't afford private school. And even though my school was higher performing, it wasn't working for my child. And so I would say, I homeschool, but my kid also goes to the public school. So I was forced to send them to the public school all day. But when they got home, I used those books, What Your First Grader Should Know. And I would go every night and teach them some of the things that they weren't learning at school. And unfortunately, as parents, sometimes that's what you have to do. If you can't homeschool, work from home, juggle it, do evening online classes, whatever you need to do. But you can get involved in your local school board, in your legislature, to start along that continuum for public school choice, for scholarships for specific types of students is usually where it begins, special needs, students with IEPs, et cetera. So there's always a way to start the process. What we can't do is say, this is a blue state, we should just move everybody who wants school choice into Florida or Arizona and give up on them. I don't give up on them. And we've got the federal tax credit now program that we just need those governors to opt in. There's a lot of levers we can pull to pressure them to opt into the federal tax credit. Those monies can be used for private school in blue states, perhaps. And so there's a lot to be excited about, but I totally understand their frustration and feeling like it's hopeless.
Yeah, it's our poor, like I've had on the show a mom from the state of Washington, for example, and I think I was telling you before the show, everyone cries on my episodes. Get out your tissues. I don't
Yes.
think this is going to be a crying episode, but she was very emotional because Glenn Beck or somebody had said on their show the day before, get out of the state of Washington, leave the state. She said, that's my home for generations. I think her family had been there 6 generations. It's breaking her heart to see it being destroyed by decisions the government is making. And she said every day the conversations with conservatives in the state are you leaving? Is this the day I should leave? Every time something happens, is this when we should leave now? And she kind of went on a monologue about, if we leave the state and everybody leaves California, like, when everybody leaves Oregon, are we going to just let the West Coast of the United States go to China? Like, what are we going to do? Like, you have to protect your homeland, and you have to fight for what's right for your family. And so that just goes along with what you're saying about we can't leave the blue states, we can't leave the blue counties. We have to continue to fight there and give the tools and resources to those parents so they can start taking action. And so do you have any place to drive, a website or anything yet to drive some of these parents to learn more about things they can do? Is there something in all of your organizations that you're working with?
Well, youredfreedom.org for the Education Freedom Foundation. We do have resources for every single state, especially if you want to get together with some other parents and try to start a micro school or a pod, try to come up with some solutions. We'd be happy to help with that. Yeah, it may require sacrifices on the part of families, but families did it during COVID, in every state, where they came together with other families and figured out how to get their kids educated when schools weren't open. And so if we just adopt a mindset that this is the most important thing that we have to do, is to raise our children and educate them and protect them from the things that may be going on in schools that are dangerous. And I think if I were in that position, I would do anything I possibly could. And at the Education Freedom Foundation at youredfreedom.org, get in touch with us. We can either help you start something, help you find other people that are like-minded, but we'd be happy to be part of the solution.
So tell me, what makes you so passionate about education freedom and education choice? I mean, is it Common Core? Does it go that far back, or is there something more specific that's happened in your family that really makes you passionate that parents need the opportunity to choose?
Well, it started with my son, my middle son, who, despite being in an A school district, the school that I chose for them by buying a house in that district, thinking this was the best option, struggled in school, hated going to school, hated learning, and made me feel like a failure as a mom. Anyone who has a child that hates going to school and cries every day, you feel like a total failure. Or the answer from the school is that there's something wrong with him. He needs to be medicated. He needs to be in a special classroom. And I knew that that was not the case.
A lot of moms of boys hear that. I think my own sister, at one point, I went through to an IEP meeting with her, and they wanted to medicate my nephew, and she was so against it. And so,
well, they blackmailed me a little bit. They said, either you're going to medicate him and we'll keep him in this school, we'll keep him in a normal classroom, or if you decide not to medicate him, we're going to put him on a bus every day and send him to a special classroom across town. And so they left me with really no choice. That wasn't going to work for me, either one of those options. So I pulled him out. I put him in a classical private school, which I had on credit cards. I could not afford it at the time.
She told this story just a little bit earlier at her event, and I love the part about you literally said, I told Byron.
Yep. I will max out the credit card.
Credit card. And I'm like, I think a lot of marriages, we've had those type of conversations.
Well, I said, I would rather go into debt, child love learning and love going to school. It's true though. Like, I don't care what it takes. I am not going to send my child into that environment a single day longer when they don't care if he's learning or not. They don't care if he's happy. They don't care if he's emotionally healthy. They don't care that he doesn't need medication, and they want to medicate him anyway. And I'm supposed to trust them with my child? No. I will go into debt. I don't care what it takes. I'm taking him out. I sent him to this small classical Christian school. Thank God for it. That existed at the time. And he was a different kid. He jumped in the car the first day, huge smile on his face, couldn't wait to tell me all about the Crusades. And he loves history now. Every day, he couldn't wait to tell us how much he had learned and how much he loved his school. And he was the best recruiter. He would go to our neighbor's house and tell them all about the stuff he was learning in this classical school. And then they're wondering, like, why is my child not learning these things? And some of their kids ended up going to classical schools because of it. But that's how passionate and excited he was about going to school. A complete 180 from the public school.
I just want the moms that are listening right now, because I've been in that same situation where the school wasn't working for my son. And I think that, just think about those moments where you're like beating your head against the wall, trying to figure out, like, how can I help? How can I make them love learning? Like, what's going on here? I don't know about you, but I don't even understand. Why are you not turning any assignments in?
Yes.
Why are you not?
You are doing them.
Like, you're in school. Why do you have all these blank spaces? Like, what is happening? And I too pulled, I don't know if you about that, but I pulled William for 2 years and put him in a private Christian school. And it was he got in the car. He was older than your son, but I remember him getting in the car and saying, "Oh, what occurred to me was when he said, Mom, did you know that he was talking about the layers of the earth, but he was talking about artifacts found in the layers of the earth's crust and how it was proof that Noah's Ark existed." And I just remember going, "Where did you learn that?" And he said, "In science class today." And I thought he would have never, ever had that conversation in a public school. And you said something today when you were speaking about why can't my other son have this? And that was my mentality. Like, my older son was already, done with high school, and he never had that opportunity to have that type of education. I never had that opportunity. There's so many great options out there. And I think as parents, especially from our generation, you go to your public school down the street, and there's no options to learn the good, the true, and the beautiful. Like, you're just there to, oh, it's so darn frustrating.
Well, I knew there were a lot more, what I say, Darrens out there, a lot more kids who the public schools wasn't working for them. We didn't have any charters or magnets or even affordable private schools in my community. And I knew families that were struggling in the same manner, and they thought it was something wrong with their child. And what I found out is that it's not something wrong with your child. It's just square peg, round hole. It doesn't work for them. Let's find something that fits. But the more heartbreaking part that really got me passionate is the parents who don't have the resources, don't have the tenacity that I do, who would listen to the experts and put their child on medication or send them to a different classroom, where Darren never been in a special classroom, never been medicated, and was able to go through his entire career in private schools or charter schools and succeed academically and love learning and love history. And that those kids and those parents who listen to the experts are either medicated or not getting the same opportunities that they deserve.
And not learning to read. I think our audience is very familiar with only a third of fourth graders in America can read, and we know it's a huge national security risk, and it's devastating to the future of these children. So what is Darren doing now?
He just went off to college. He's playing basketball, studying history and pre-law, and just is so successful in school. He figured it out. Yeah. And they're just, especially with boys, I have 3 boys and they're all different. They all learn differently. They mature at different times. But the schools should be a partnership with families to, I'm not saying every school has to be everything to everyone, and that's not realistic. But that's why we need a robust free market in education, because you will have a school for autistic students. You will have a school for gifted students. You will have a school for students who are interested in STEM, students that are interested in history, parents who care about classical education or Christian education. You will have a plethora of options available because there are all these different types of learners, interests, family values, and the options for families for school choice should reflect that. This is America. How are you going to tell us we are Americans? We believe in the free market and competition and capitalism and high expectations. How is it that we only have one option and it's totally substandard by any measure? That's totally unacceptable. And the only way to fix it is the free market. I've seen it happen when I was on the school board. And we would have a charter school. Finally, we started getting charter schools in our community. When that charter school popped up, oh, lo and behold, we get a new principal at the school that's closest to that charter school, one of the high-performing principals from somewhere else, so that they can try to hold on to those students. We had one example where a high school opened up, and the closest school was always a D or an F school. After that opened, that high school competing, that they got a new principal, and that school has always been A's or B's since. And you can draw that line. Once they started getting competition, they decided that they needed to make that school a better performer.
All right, we're going to take a break and just show you a little clip of Erika's speech from Summit. And when we come back, I'm going to talk to Erika a little bit about her forward casting. She's serving in all these amazing roles: America First Policy Institute. What's the title there?
Chair of Education Opportunity.
Chair of Education Opportunities. She's serving on the Department of Education and the AFPI Civics in Education Coalition.
America 250, yes.
250. There's so many titles. So when we get back, we're going to talk about a little bit about the future of education in America, which is actually very exciting.
whether that's your local school board, your state legislature, or some faraway bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., they are not going to be the ones making decisions for our children. We, the parents, will. That is going to result in the very best educational outcomes, in children who love this country and are ready to defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic, who understand our Constitution and why America is the greatest nation the world has ever known.
I'm Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. My guest today is Erika Donalds. She has many titles. Her current role is the founder and CEO of Education Freedom Foundation, along with serving at America First Policy Institute and working with the DOE on America 250 civics education. She has a lot of hats that she wears. She is also wife to Congressman Byron Donalds, who is running for governor here in the great state of Florida. And last but not least, she is a good friend of mine. She is a huge champion of parental rights and has been since 2013 when she realized it was an actual issue. And it's just an honor to have her here today. Welcome back, Erika.
Thank you.
And so I want to talk a little bit about the future of education, because if anything, you're a visionary and you're always looking forward. Your idea of what education should look like, I want to talk about, and where it's going. Also want to cover AI in education, because that's a really hot topic right now for us. But let's start with just the future of education. Where are we going with education?
I think we can't really imagine what an education system looks like in the future, in the same way that in the 80s when we were talking on, our parents perhaps, were talking on phones that were like big bricks, couldn't have imagined the computers that we hold in our pockets every day and all of the amazing things that they can do. That's where we are in education right now. We're carrying around bricks and we can't fathom a computer in your pocket.
That's a great analogy. We are carrying around bricks. When you think about these like concrete block buildings that almost look like prisons, that is our current public education system that's being controlled by the teachers unions. We're carrying around like a brick, a heavy brick.
And it's unfathomable, I think, to the future generations. They're going to look back and go, wait, you could only go to one school, or you had to pick one place to learn all of your subjects. They're not going to understand this education system of today. It's going to seem so bizarre to them, because look at every other industry in the United States of America and in the world. It's on demand. It's customizable. You can change it at every turn. I believe education is going to be like that in the future, especially with all the innovative options that are coming online. And if parents are in the driver's seat and so that they have that money to spend and they have various options to choose from. I talked about what kind of innovations can come to the market now with ESAs, education scholarship accounts, because if I have $9,000 to spend, I don't have to spend it at one place that offers all the subjects. I can, and I don't think that's going to go away, but I can also purchase a couple of in-person courses if I think that's what's best for my children. And then they come home at lunchtime, they do something online that's self-paced, and then maybe museums start doing courses for the area they're specialized in. Or the very best physics teacher in the world has an online course that anyone can sign up for, and they have little agents of theirs that interact with their students, because we don't have enough physics teachers in the world, right? I want to see parents be able to customize the entire education experience for their children using the money that's allocated to them. And I think that's the wave of the future. Well, how do we get there from here is a whole different story, right? We're very close in terms of what that infrastructure might look like from a policy perspective, because we have different states that are trying different things. But what we need are more schools. We need more programs. We need more innovations to come. And that's where AI, I think, is really going to show itself as value. For example, and I gave this in our talk, if I'm a student in math and I have missed, even if I've had B's, if I've gotten 80% of the math content every year and I get to 6th grade, it is impossible for me to get 90% at that point, because I'm missing 20% of the foundation and it builds on each other. What AI can do is identify those deficiencies and help me plug those, going all the way back, in a very effective and efficient way, because it's going to learn how I learn, What are the very specific things that I'm missing, and get me up to speed so that I can master all of the content going forward. That's just one example. I think people think of AI and they think of ChatGPT. It's going to write your papers for you. You're going asking questions and it's pulling information from Reddit and feeding it back to you. That's not what we're using for education. What we're using for education, that's a type of AI. But for education, we can create safe environments with limited information. Let's say the Federalist Papers. We're going to put the Federalist Papers in a small language model, and we're going to let students interact with the founding fathers and ask them questions and get feedback based on the Federalist Papers, not what's being said on Reddit, right? Those are the opportunities and the safeguards that are being built right now by lots of innovators around the world that can be used in education to really enhance learning and catch our kids up that are so far behind.
So I know there's parents watching right now that say, heck no, they are terrified of AI. What would you say to them?
And they don't have to be early adopters. That's okay. Not everyone is. I wasn't. For a long time, I was afraid of technology in the classroom, and I felt it was overused. That's why I started classical schools that don't use technology. If they are choosing between AI and a high quality teacher in the classroom that's doing an amazing job in teaching their kids all that they need to know, they are in a very enviable position from most people in this country. Unfortunately, most people in this country do not have access to a high quality teacher. And it would be awesome if we could get technology that really personalizes the type of education for every student. I believe there will be lots of state laws out there and best practices to create guardrails that don't allow for the indoctrination that you and I are so worried about. Most importantly, I believe that every AI system that is used in schools should have a parent account where parents can see all of the interactions going and coming, that everything their student sees. We let social media get away from us as parents when that was being developed, and we need to get in front of this and say our kids are not using it unless we can see what they see. We haven't been able to do that with social media. I think we can do that with AI because we're coming in the very beginning of its development. So I think that transparency is really important, but I wouldn't be afraid of using it in a protected and ethical and safe way. But yeah, you have to ask questions. You can't just leave it open, and you can't necessarily leave it up to schools that are not, putting your interests first.
No, I think parents have to be in the driver's seat. And I'll just give a shout out to the Trump administration for allowing us to have a seat at the table. I saw you a few weeks ago at the White House at the First Lady's Education and AI Task Force meeting. It was mostly men in the room, CEOs of Google and Roblox and all of these organizations, tech organizations were in there. But I spied you across the room, and I thought, oh, what a smart White House, pulling together so many strong, smart people to start crafting and having a seat at the table when it comes to the development of AI in education. And Moms for Liberty, for those that don't know, we signed the pledge with the White House to have a seat at that table, and we agreed to develop resources and tools for parents to make sure they understand what's happening and to bring the conversation back to Common Core. I used that analogy the other day. I said one of the reasons parents were so angry about Common Core is we didn't understand it. Yeah. Not that it was great or not great. I think the jury's still out on some of that, but Common Core math was a nightmare for people that weren't trained in it. Teachers weren't even trained in it, and they were expected to teach it. Parents had no idea what it was. Once I was on the school board and got a little more of an understanding on it, actually, the math was actually 5 different ways to do a problem. It made a little more sense to me. Still don't think you should have to master each one of the 5 ways. The whole idea, yes, right? So that you pick the way you learn and you should be able to use it. But one of the reasons I think parents were so frustrated and mad, including you and I, is because we didn't understand it and we didn't know, and no one took the time to make sure parents were part of that equation and solution. And so to make sure that doesn't happen with AI, because we have to be the leaders in the world, parents have to have a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
And so the call to action here is parents get engaged, ask the questions, be involved in policy at your school districts. We're putting together toolkits at Moms for Liberty now. We will have draft school board speeches where you can go ask the questions, draft resolutions for school boards to adopt that you can bring forward, draft policies that you can ask for at the school district level, and we're going to work our way up through the state policy.
You guys are so awesome. You do such great work. Yeah. I'm such a big fan, and use all the resources.
Did I even mention that Erika has been on our advisory council for Moms for Liberty from the day we launched, I believed. So I don't even think I opened up with that.
It's truly an honor.
How can AI, or how can we, this is the big question, like we've been fighting for so much stuff and advocating for so much stuff, but the biggest problem is these 1/3 of kids that can read and the lowest math scores we've ever had in the history of the United States. So is AI going to solve that problem? Is school choice going to solve that problem? What's actually going to, for me, it's always been like, if we get rid of the teachers union, that's going to solve the problem. Like, I think there's a lot of different things, but what's really going to what's going to help kids learn again?
I think you named three of the really important aspects of this. One is school choice and the pressures of competitiveness, but without transparency and accountability for results, those competitive pressures are not going to work. That's why one of the things that, along with school choice, we need is what I call accountability through transparency. Choice schools and choice programs. I don't like top-down requirements like forcing private schools to take state tests. No. But in Florida, the private schools do have to take a national norm reference test. Your child, if they're on a scholarship, you, the parent, have to be informed of that. And I'm encouraging that private schools and public schools are putting as much information out there as possible so parents can make informed decisions about where their children are going to go to school. That's academic performance, it's school safety, it's teacher tenure, meaning the length of time they've been there, not the traditional uniform of tenure. But we need to have a robust environment where we don't only have choices, but we also have information about those choices. And I think as we get a more robust ecosystem, you'll have the Yelp of schools, if that's Great Schools or Niche or some new person, a new entity into the market there, where information that parents are looking for to make decisions is out there for them to make those decisions. And that's definitely going to include academic performance. And we're going to see those competitive pressures continue to increase that across the board. Free market competition increases access for everyone, quality, and accountability, because you can vote with your feet and you can leave. And so that's what we're looking for out of school choice and accountability through transparency. But getting rid of the teachers' unions is absolutely key to ensuring that the public schools can be more nimble and flexible to compete with private education. If they continue to under the teachers' union control, they're not going to be able to compete with private schools who don't have those barriers. And we've done everything we can in Florida to try to weaken the teachers' union's grasp on our public school system, but it's incredibly important for them to be able to do that in order to compete. And then technology like AI, like virtual reality, what we use with Optima Academy Online, and other innovative options coming into the marketplace, they're only going to survive in a free market competitive environment if they are producing great results for students. So all of these things feed into this same idea of a high quality ecosystem where every family has multiple high quality options to choose from.
It's the recipe for success for the future of America and the future of our children. I wish we had time to dig into a few of the stories that I know about you trying to fight for better education at your school district level. I think Immokalee, is that the name of the town?
Oh, yes.
The whole story of the teachers union getting in the way of giving extra money to teachers to go in underserved schools, and I've got similar stories from my district.
We should do a whole teachers union story hour
yeah,
for us and former school board members and others that have these stories.
That would be a great future episode. But I've got your assistant over there waving me down that you've got a tight schedule and we got to get you out of here. So the last question I ask is the same on every episode. At Moms for Liberty, we are the joyful warriors. And so what does it mean? I would say that you are an eternal joyful warrior. And hearing from your team today at that luncheon, even they said when government entities were closing in on you, not giving you approval for your spaces and holding back permits, and I was picturing that. I know how that goes.
Yep.
You constantly, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And I know over the years I've called you pretty desperate at times, and either you pray with me, or we're going to be okay, or it's going to be fine. We're going to get through this. And so you are an excellent example of a joyful warrior. So what does being a joyful warrior mean to you?
I think when you have faith in God that He is the one driving this mission, I didn't call myself to this. He's the one who put the passion inside of me, and He's the one who directs me every day to do what I need to do. He's the one who opens the doors and we just walk through them. That the joy that comes from that relationship with God is what really keeps you. Now, it doesn't mean I don't get flustered at times as well, but I do look to, we are winning in so many ways. We live in the greatest country in the world. We live in the greatest state in the world, in my opinion. And, we are moms. We have our children that we're able to fight for. We have our health. We just have so much to be thankful for. I have people like you in my life that walk alongside of me. I think there's just a lot to be thankful for and joyful about. And while these challenges are coming, these are great challenges because look where we are. I would rather be fighting here because we're so much further ahead than we were. And that's something to be joyful about. So I think all of those things are just stay thankful, stay grateful, and that will continue that joyfulness about you. But being around people like you and the moms at Moms for Liberty and the great organization that you've built, I think that you feed into each other and keeping faith in God and letting him fill you with the joy and peace that only he can give.
I think that's one of the best answers we have gotten. So thank you for taking the time to be on the show today. Thank you for serving on our advisory council for almost 5 years. Our 5-year birthday is coming up very soon. Thank you for supporting your husband, Byron, and running for governor in the state of Florida and for all the work you're doing for children across this whole country now. It is an honor to be your friend. It's an honor to have you on the show. And that's a wrap for us today on the Fire of Liberty show. Thank you for joining us. We hope you will follow us on Apple and Spotify, subscribe, download every episode, hear from the front lines, moms and dads that are really fighting in this culture war for a better education, for a brighter future for America. And we will see you next week.